Shalom family, it's Shalom again, man. Back at it. It's been a minute. I know. I'm gonna wait for some people to come in, and then I'm just gonna go in, like, you know. Ah, I can't wait to talk about this for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Shalom, Shalom. You know what I'm saying? Wait for someone else to come in. Share it on Facebook, man. Let people know I'm live, bro. As you can see, I got my notebook out. History of the 1400s to today. A little sloppy, but you know. Here we go. I'm gonna go in. Fuck it. I wasted 65 seconds. Alright. 1452. Right? 1452. Pope Nicholas signed Dum Diversis, a papal bull that allowed all Christians to enslave any non-Christians. Read that again. Allowed all Christians to enslave any non-Christians who did not convert. And some who did convert still were made into slaves. And they also called them pagan Saracens, which were Arabs and Muslims, right? 1492, you also got to know that in 1492 there was a war called the War of Granada. 1492 was also when Christo Columbine came to America, right? South America, right? Well, also 1492, when the War of Granada happened, the Jews, so-called Jews, which were actually the real Jews, which was us, we were on the verge of being converted into Muslims, and then Spain came, the conquistadors came, and they took over and turned everything into Christianity, Roman Catholicism, right? So when they did that, excuse me, this is over here now, by the way, like near Libya, but in Cape Verde, near Cape Verdes, right? Which we're going to get into that in a moment. But anyways, there was a 90% Sunni Muslim religion and 10% Judaism, or Jews, right? But anyway, moving on, right? It says Saracens. 1492, also enter TORAH, Intercaetera, extended west and south of Cape Verde, passed by Pope Alexander VI. Who's Pope Alexander VI? Father of Caesar Borgia, who was Jesus. Which this act, or this papyrus, allowed families of Spain and Portugal to claim first rights to all lands west and south of Cape Verdes Island. Northwest, Cape Verde Island is northwest Africa, the very, very northwest corner of Africa. Right? Think about the very, very northwest corner of Africa. Cape Verde is not on it, but it's on Europe at the bottom, which would be southwest of Europe. The very, very bottom southwest, Cape Verdes, Capeverdes. Anything southwest of Europe would be South America. Look at it on the map. Cape Verdes would be the very tip of Europe at the bottom southwest. And then straight down southwest of that, you will have South America, right? Keep that in mind. The Spanish reigned and were shortly defeated in a Spanish war called Spanish Armada by the butt bandit British and by a man named Francis Drake, who constantly attacked the Spanish, who was attacked by the Spanish, and returned the favor sevenfold by delivering stolen goods that he stole from the Spanish to a Spanish queen named Queen Elizabeth that knew the goods were stolen from her own people, but she supported Spanish colonialism and was grateful for it because she made a lot of money off of it. It was capitalism, right? Cargo. Right? Now, Queen was removed by the Roman Council, right? Queen Elizabeth. cave adjacent countries were warring constantly between each other. The cave adjacent countries were France, Netherlands, and Sweden. Right? Keep in mind, all of this is going on in America. New England is part of America. New London was made in America. New Zealand, Netherlands, Sweden. Like these are places out east now, but these names were out west in the North Americas. Look it up. Right? Which these three countries three places warring against each other, which were in Canada, Quebec, left room for the British to dominate colonizers, to be the dominant colonizers. But one one group of British colonizers disappeared, were never heard from again. They were called the Lost Colony of North Carolina. After Queen Elizabeth died, King James I, yep, your boy King James, the 1611 Bible authorization author, wrote the U.S. Charter of Virginia, the Charter of Plymouth, and the London Company. These charters allowed for Virginia to colonize and reclaim these two territories known as New London, which will be Rhode Island, Newport, Rhode Island, which was a slave port, New York, parts of Canada. You have Maine, Vermont, Maryland, you have Pennsylvania, like the whole East Coast, all the way down to Florida. There was literally slave ports, exports for cargo. Think about it. They were exporting slaves, right? And this is the 14, 15, 17, 16, I'm sorry, 14, 15, 1600s, they're exporting slaves, right? 16, what did I say? This is 1606, the Virginia Charter of 1606, right? Indians were in these places. Look up the names of New York, Maine, and Vermont. Vermont means green mountain. Think about it. Mountainous land over here. The Native Americans lived at the bottom of mountains, bro, because they was full of vegetation. There used to be so much vegetation that a squirrel could hop on a tree in New York and not touch the ground and make it all the way to Florida. Florida literally translates to a land of florid places, or floral place, a floral place. Floral is flowers, vegetation, growth, life, right? This works physical as well, man. It's a universal law, not just Torah law. The Torah is a universal law. That's what I'm getting at. The Torah is everything. Think about it, right? What goes out comes back in. What is in comes out sometimes. Like, it works like that sometimes, you know? That's Torah. But anyway, in 1682, Virginia vowed to eradicate American Indians with the Virginia Slave Act, which literally meant reclassifying any and almost all Native American Indians and African slaves into one category, the word Negro or other slave. That was the term for all American Indians and Africans. Think about that for a second. If the Native Americans of today were the long-haired people, why are they called niggas? And this is 1682. 1682. Look. Right there. And then you got to look this up. Giovanni. Hold on, y'all. Verrazano. Alright. Look this man up. Giovanni. Right? Giovanni de Verrazano. 1652. He said, when he came to South America, he said that the people of Hispaniola and the people of all these South American places on the southwest of South America and down further were all black. He said they had short ponytails. He said they were agile and swift runners. They were broad looking people. But these were the Taino Indians. They were black. Think about that. Right? Read that again. In 1682, Virginia vowed to eradicate American Indians with the Virginia Slave Act, reclassifying any and almost all Native American Indians and African slaves into one category, Negro or other slaves. Later, this word got lost in translation. Shalom, sis. Shalom. Later, this word Negro got lost in translation and context. The Atlantic Ocean is majority of transported majority of male black Indians. Now peep this. The Indian slave trade started 100 to 125 years before 1619, the transatlantic slave trade, right? Think about that. And they moved these Indians to Europe first, and then they moved them to Asia, and then to Africa, and then back to Rhode Island, Newport, Rhode Island, and then back to Boston, Massachusetts, and so on, stuff, places like that. New London, Canada. Think about it. 1705, Virginia slave codes were passed, which were staunch declarations of white supremacy. Prohibited Negroes, aka Indians, from firearms, allowed illegal arrests of Negroes who had no proof of freedom, aka identification. Also allowed no whites to work for blacks, but usually many Indians use whites to work for crops because poor European slaves wanted to understand and learn how to grow tobacco, being that tobacco was a huge cash crop. The British and the people in Europe, like, they loved the cash crop for tobacco. Like, they love tobacco, right? The Spaniards loved it too, and they would trade it for sugar. The sugar plains were like the worst plains to work on. And this was running rampant down in South America, and our people were working on sugar plains, right? Were not our people working on sugar plains? Think about it. Our people were killing the sugar plantations. This is South America, where majority of the sugar plantations were. Middle Central America, Middle Passage. But let's keep it going. Then come the French. After all of this is going on with the Native Americans being captured and enslaved and thrown overboard or whatever, and these people are black now. Keep in mind, these Indians are black. They're not these Native Americans of today. These people are Mongolians. They were $5 Indians. I'm not trying to be racist. That is a fact. Look up the what is it? It's the 1926 Act. Something to do with the Indian Removal Act or something like that. But look it up, and it'll tell you that white people pay $5 to the Cherokees or to some other Indians to become called an Indian. Anyway, and there were also that white people made it with the Mongoloids, and they forced us to make with Mongoloids. Look, they pushed us to Asia and Europe. Think about it, and think about this too. Like Shem and Japhet. Japhet would be on the coast of Shem. I'm starting to think that the Spaniards and conquistadors could have been Japhet, right? If that be the case, possibly, it's just a possibility. It's just a possibility. Not 100% fact. I'm going to do more research on it, but it's just a possibility. Think about it. If this could be Shem, this land, because it's if you read the book of Jubilees, it tells you that the land of Shem is neither hot nor cold, but the land of Ham is hot, and the land of Japhet is cold. Well, South America, on the southwestern parts and the islands and all of that, like, this is where the Mongoloids were, and this is where the Spaniards eventually ruled. The conquistadors took over. So think about that for a minute. And then Shem and Japhet, Japhet would dwell in the tents of Shem. If this is so-called America is Japhet or what, Shem, then think about that. Like, these islands were engulfed by Mongoloids and Spaniards. The coast of South America, the coast of Eastern North America. Think about that. The islands. Like, there's so many beaches. There's beaches in Virginia, Florida, North Carolina. There's a beach in what else you got? Man, like, there's beaches all over this place. You know what I mean? Think about it. Anyway, the French came after all this colonization happened with the British, and they basically were pillagers from Paris who took over Canada and mainly Quebec, which was also called New France. British colonies, New Spain, which stretched from midland America all the way down to the Louisiana Bayou, was French territory. Took over Haiti under the power of the Holy Roman Catholic Empire. Took over Hispaniola, 1/3 of the island actually. 1795, France under the Peace of Bastille took over the eastern half of Hispaniola. In exchange for a small piece of land for a jibo called Jibo Suka, home of the founder of the Society of Jesus, who's a man named Ignacio de la Hoya. New imported slaves and 1,400 slaves came together in a revolution, defeated Napoleon Bonaparte, which is known as the Haitian Revolution. In 1804, Haiti claimed independence. British abolitionists passed the Slave Trade Act of 1789 to 1807, limiting the number of slaves carried, which was passed to actually keep and protect cargo and finances. They wanted to protect their finances because a lot of fraud was going on, insurance fraud. Well, this also sparked the Zoing Massacre, Zoing, the Zoing Massacre, which led to 130 plus slaves, African slaves, and North American Indians pushed and thrown and hung overboard and getting their heads chopped off on boats, just so they can have more room for cargo. So think about, while y'all talking about 100 million, 99 million slaves, and we come from Africa. Nigga, if it is, it's Northwest Africa, you fucking dodos. And along the, come on, man. Think about it. They took us to Europe and Asia. So also probably along the Iberian Peninsula. I gotta research where that is too, but I'm for real. Y'all gotta look this stuff up, man. This is stuff I learned in school. I'm just putting the pieces together. Right? Limited the number of slaves carried, which passed to protect cargo and finances. Zoing Massacre occurred. 130 plus slaves were pushed, thrown overboard, right? But then eventually it was stopped and they used slaves for capitalism, which is still used today. The Atlantic Ocean is a massive slave graveyard. Any native who wouldn't submit to crown and pope was tortured and killed or enslaved. Eventually, the Indian slave trade, which was North American Indians sold in Europe, Asia, and Africa by conquistadors, and the conquistadors started a rumor saying, we're going to get on a boat to Zion, aka El Dorado, which they thought that there was actual gold there, but it turns out there was no gold. Only black Africans, so-called Africans today, which were before that called Indians, Tainos, North Americans today, but they changed the faces of the North Americans today, which were actually our people, look like Negroes, right? They found no gold and they only stole slaves and returned human cargo to the Europeans, which was the first slave trade of North America to Europe, which started 100 to 125 years before the transatlantic slave trade. And then here you can see I tried to draw a little map, but it's not that good because I'm not a good drawer. But up here, right, let's try to get it. Up here you can see I tried to make it Canada, which I labeled also Canada, the Midland, which stretch all the way down to Louisiana, bayous, right? Thank you. The Iberian Peninsula is in Spain. We was over there in Spain. That's why they brought us to Haiti. And then they went back to West Africa and brought Africans to Haiti. Many Africans to Haiti. Why do you think they classified them as Negro? Black. Look up Giovanni Verrazano. He tells you that the people in South America and the islands of Haiti and all this shit were like the Ethiopians, but they had short ponytails, short tails in their hair. Native Americans today are pictured with long ponytails, long hair, right? Think about that. They were swift runners. How many Native Americans today you know are fast? How many Native Americans today are running backs in the NFL? How many Native Americans today are playing basketball? How many Native Americans today are playing soccer? How many Native Americans today are playing all these sports that black people are dominating, that we're so agile and swift at, that Giovanni Verrazzano was describing back in 1652? Think about this. My grandmother is 77, finna be 78 years old next month. 5 times 77 is about 435 years ago. All this stuff I'm talking about happened in the 1400s, which was 600 and something, not even 600 and something years ago, right? That's more than half. 5 generations of my grandma, 5 of my grandma's lifetimes, is more than half of what of this shit that I'm talking about and compiling in the 30-25 minutes or whatever. Think about that. And all the shit that's happening today and done happened to us. Think about that. Really think about that. Oh yeah, and I also got the name of the places over here in Canada, which was New Zealand, which was owned by the French and the British, which King James gave the New London Press, which would be Maine, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, part of Ohio. You got West Virginia, right? North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, which were all one big state. They were called the Carolinas. Look up today when you get a chance. Look up the Georgia Slave Code. Look up the North Carolina Slave Code. Look up the South Carolina Slave Code. Look it up. Or the South Carolina Negro Law, the Georgia Negro Law, and the North Carolina Negro Law. Look it up. All this stuff I'm telling you. People think that I'm fucking crazy and think we fucking crazy. Excuse my language. I hate to cuss, but people think we effing crazy. And I'm bringing out raw information, man. Like, this is basic stuff. Watch. King James also started the Virginia Company, the London Company, and the Plymouth Company, which were all on those places I just named on the East Coast. Like I said, Rhode Island, Newport, Rhode Island was a slave port. The name Utah out west means it was pronounced Yuda. It was an Indian tribe, Yuda. Y-U-D-A, Yuda, like Judah. Look it up. The etymology of Utah in the Latin is Yuda. It was an Indian tribe. Come on, man. Think about it. With that, man, all praises to Abba Yahweh, our God, our King. You know what I'm saying? Much peace and blessings to the Aborigines, the Hebrews of this land, man. With that, shalom. Just want to raise thought and spark innovation, man. Something to think about. Because people are always talking about the same bullshit constantly over and over again. And I'm getting tired of it. You know what I'm saying? Niggas bearing false witness and tale bearing on other people. And don't know what's really going on. So, this is what's really going on. And with that, shalom. All praises to Yahweh. Much love to the nation. Peace.